Okay. As usual, this lecture is recorded. Okay, I think everybody is now here. Isa na lang. Okay. So let us have a short recap on our topic, international finance continuation. So when we talk about international finance, key concept would be the foreign exchange rate. Just a short recap from last meeting. What is the foreign exchange rate? The foreign exchange rate is the price of one country's currency in units of another country's currency. Now, I would like to proceed to certain topics that would be of interest to us, particularly the purchasing power parity or PPP. Purchasing power parity or PPP. The purchasing power parity is exploring the relationship in which the same product costs, sorry, it is a relationship in which the same product costs roughly the same amount in different countries after taking into account the exchange rate. We call this the purchasing power parity or PPP. So say for example, last time, if we have $1 equal to 50 pesos as the exchange rate, if we would find a 100 peso shirt in the Philippines, in the United States, it should cost us the same, still 100 pesos. But because the currency is the US dollar, we have to convert it. In the United States, it should be 2 US dollars. Whether you buy it in the Philippines or in the United States, it doesn't matter. The outflow from you in order to acquire the item should still be the same. To be specific, we call this absolute PPP. We call this absolute PPP. It is consistent with the law of one price. The law of one price, that's absolute PPP. If you want to take the item price at our home currency, well, all you have to do is to look for the item's price in a foreign currency and multiply it by the spot rate. What's the spot rate again? The spot rate is the exchange rate for an exchange to be happening now. If we want to know the exchange rate when the exchange will take place now, today, you look at the spot rate, the exchange rate now. If you have to convert pesos to dollars, dollars to pesos, we are going to look at the spot rate if we're going to do it now. So say for example, the shirt costs 2 US dollars in the United States and the spot rate is 50 pesos per US dollar. We would have a domestic price of 100 pesos. Okay? Now, what's the logic behind the law of one price? What's the logic behind absolute PPP? Well, accordingly, if the price of an item is higher in one country and lower in other countries, say for example, Big Mac in July 2020, in Switzerland, it is an equivalent of $6.91. In New Zealand, it's only 4.35 US dollars. If the prices differ, according to absolute PPP, there will be an arbitrage. People will start buying in New Zealand and sell it in Switzerland. People will buy at 435 and sell it at 691 if this is true. Okay? If the purchasing power parity in an absolute sense is not true, it will become true. Why? Because there will be arbitrage. People will buy here and sell here. If people will keep on buying here, the demand for Big Mac will increase in New Zealand, pushing up the price to 435 plus XXX. Okay? The demand for Big Mac in New Zealand will increase, increasing the price. You know, simple economics. And what people will do is will sell them on Switzerland, in Switzerland. And if the people will sell it in Switzerland, the supply will increase. Higher supply will push the prices down. So at the end of the day, we will end up in a world where the price of the item will be the same no matter where you are, at least in theory. What is the theoretical justification for absolute PPP? If the prices of the products are different among different countries, then there will be arbitrage. People will buy where there is a low price and sell it where there is a high price. If that will happen, it will increase the demand in the country where it is priced lower, and it will increase the supply where in the country where it is priced higher. If that will happen, the demand will increase in New Zealand, pushing up the prices. The supply will increase in Switzerland, pulling down the prices, and will end up with the same price of Big Mac in the entire world. In theory, absolute PPP dictates that we should have only one price for the Big Mac. But in reality, it doesn't happen. I repeat, there is a sound justification for absolute PPP. There should only be one price for the product wherever we are in the world, in theory. But in the real world, this is real world data. As of July 2020, the price of the Big Mac is higher in New Zealand than in Switzerland than it is in New Zealand. Why is the absolute PPP not true when it comes to the real world? In the real world, there are issues on the PPP. There are countries where transportation would cost higher if we're going to put them there. And there are governments who would impose tariff, increasing the prices of the same item. This is the reason why cars are more expensive in the Philippines than it is in the United States, because we are paying a large amount of taxes when cars are being imported in the Philippines. Tariff. And it will cost an amount to transport them here. Services and non-shippable products, now they are not exposed to the entire world. Just because the haircut is cheaper in the Philippines than it is in Singapore, Singaporeans cannot simply go here in order to have a haircut, and therefore arbitrage is impossible. Then we have access to information technology. There are people who can access to who have access to the internet, who can find a cheaper price, making the price competitive, but some people have no access to the internet, making it harder for them to find a lower cost. And fluctuations in the exchange rate will make absolute PPP impossible. Now, before I go to the relative PPP, I would like to discuss the difference between nominal and real exchange rates. The nominal exchange rate is the exchange rate as you know it. Example, $1 is equal to 50 pesos, or 1 peso is equal to 0.02 US dollars. In real exchange rate, we compare the cost of an item. Say, for example, a jacket in the Philippines costs 240 pesos. The same jacket would cost $5 in the USA. Given that the nominal exchange rate is $1 50 pesos, what happens here is that the US jacket costs higher. One USA jacket, you can buy 1.04 Philippine jacket. The calculations were explained last time. Or you can put it this way, for one Philippine jacket, you can only obtain 0.96 US jacket. So this is what we call the real exchange rates, where real goods are being compared rather than the currencies. If purchasing power were to hold even in the short run, then very good. Nakuha nyo na to, no? The real exchange rate should be stable over time. Purchasing power parity exchange rate holds constant the relative price levels in two countries when measured in a common currency. So if the price levels would go up in a particular country, there would be a corresponding change as well in the other country. Now, the exchange rates would adjust in order to account for differing price levels. This would be an introduction already to relative PPP. In relative PPP, it may not be true. Absolute PPP may not be true. It is impossible to say that there should only be one price for the same good in the real world. In other words, in the real world, absolute PPP is not true. But relative PPP may be true. Example, consider a world consisting of only two countries, Canada and the United Kingdom. If inflation in Canada in 1 year was 5%, in UK it's 10%, what's the rate? At what rate is the Canadian dollar expected to change? How about the UK pound sterling? So if we are going to assume that they started off with the same exchange rate, then after those changes in the exchange rate, yun, it will cost a higher amount to purchase the same item in the past 1 year before because of inflation. In Canada, what used to be 1 Canadian dollar will now cost 1.05 Canadian dollars. In the UK, it is worse. What used to cost 1 UK pound will now cost 1.10 UK pounds because of the higher inflation rate, 10%. Now, if you're going to look at the Canadian dollar relative to the UK pound, the Canadian dollar would appreciate because the inflation is lower in Canada. So the UK pound per Canadian dollar will now be higher, 1.0476 UK pounds per Canadian dollar. And at the same time, the UK pound will be worth less, 0.9545 Canadian dollars per UK pound. The full discussion of the calculations were discussed last meeting. Okay? And then, binigay ko to sa inyo, no? Okay. I also gave you this problem on your own. I believe only 3 of you were able to answer. So I believe you have to practice on this. Okay? Now, let me proceed to risk management. Let me now proceed to risk management. I am talking of risk management in relation to fluctuations of exchange rate. The foreign exchange, the forex, the foreign exchange rates fluctuate. Okay, what's foreign exchange risk? What is foreign exchange risk? Foreign exchange risk refers to the possibility of loss due to changes in the relative value of currencies. Foreign exchange risk refers to the possibility of loss due to changes in the relative value of currencies. It can be mitigated with the use of derivatives. Okay, what are derivatives? Derivatives are securities that derive their value from an underlying asset or benchmark. By definition, just stick with the definition first. I will elaborate on this later. Derivatives are securities that derive their value from an underlying asset or benchmark. Forwards, futures, options, and swaps are examples of derivatives. These are examples of derivatives. Okay? What is the problem that we are going to solve? The problem or the issue that we are concerned of is foreign exchange risk. This refers to the possibility of loss due to changes in relative value of currencies. How can we manage it? We can minimize its impact with the use of derivatives. These are securities that derive their value from an underlying asset or benchmark, such as forwards, futures, options, and swaps. Now, Let us talk about foreign exchange risk, the possibility of loss due to changes in the relative value of currencies. Before we discuss this, I would like you to answer the following question. Okay? Sabay-sabay tayo ha. We're going to press the enter button together. A US company has an account payable it must pay in 6 months with one Japanese company. An account receivable to be received in 6 months with another Japanese company. The US company would not have transaction exposure if, so let me rephrase it. The US company would not have transaction exposure. Let me rephrase it. The US company would not be exposed to foreign exchange risk if, is the answer A, B, C, or D? Go. Okay, ready your answers? Ready your answers? Enter. Okay. Okay. Very good, no? Very good. Mukhang alam nyo naman to. So, is it possible that the US company will not be exposed to foreign exchange risk? Is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. How? Then create the terms in a way that the inflow and outflow will be in US dollars. Tama kayo. The correct answer is letter A. Very good. Nakuha nyo to. No? The correct answer is letter A. Both the account payable and account receivable are denominated in US dollars. That being the case, both AP and AR are denominated in US dollars. Whatever the exchange rate between the dollar and the yen is, it doesn't matter because the AR and the AP, they are denominated in US dollars. May utang tayo kay Japanese company. Amerikano tayo ha. We are Americans. We have we're indebted to a Japanese company and another Japanese company owes us something. If both of those transactions are expressed in US dollars, no matter what the exchange rate between the US dollar and the yen is, it doesn't matter anymore. No matter what it is, our amount collectible and amount payable, it would still be the same. Pare-parehas pa rin yung amount, hindi magbabago. The correct answer is letter A. No transaction exposure if both AP and AR are denominated in US dollars. Okay? What would happen if letter boy is true? Ano ba? The account payable is denominated in dollars. No problem. Account receivable is denominated in yen. If the account receivable is denominated in yen, and the yen has fallen in value, when the Japanese company will pay to you, when converted to dollars, mababa na yung yen, then the amount that you would collect in dollar terms will now be lower. What about if the account payable, it is the account payable which is denominated in yen? Well, let's go to the opposite direction. Okay? What if the accounts payable is denominated in yen? When the yen would increase in value, we would have to pay a higher amount in the future. This is foreign exchange risk. The risk of loss, possibility of loss, due to changes in the relative value of currencies. Nagbago yung exchange rate, kaya nalugi tayo. We call that foreign exchange risk. How can we avoid foreign exchange risk? One way to avoid foreign exchange risk is when we are going to put the terms in our local currency. Just like this US company, if both the AP and the AR are denominated in US dollars, then well and good. Whatever the exchange rate between the US dollar and the yen is, the US company will not be affected. Ayos ba? Very good. The correct answer is letter A. I have demonstrated to you what foreign exchange risk means. How can we manage foreign exchange risk? We can avoid it by using our own currency. However, we cannot have it that way all the time. Hindi naman pwede tayo lagi yung pinagbibigyan na gagamitin yung currency natin. It is possible that we have to deal with other currencies. What are we going to do? We may use derivatives. We may use derivatives in order to mitigate the impact of the foreign exchange risk. Okay. One of the examples of a derivative is the forward. What is a forward? A forward is a customized contract between two parties to buy or sell an asset at a specified price on a specified future date. A forward is a customized contract between two parties to buy or sell an asset at a specified price on a specified future date. Similar to forwards are futures. Again, they are similar. However, there's an important difference. Futures are not customized. They are standardized contracts, similar to forwards, but rather than being customized, they are standardized. And furthermore, they can be traded at exchanges. Similar to the stock market, to stocks, there are also exchanges for futures, but there are no exchanges for forwards. Okay? What is a forward? It's a customized contract between two parties to buy or sell an asset at a specified price on a specified future date. In other words, the exchange will happen in the future, but in order to prevent us from being exposed to changes in the exchange rate, what happens is we're going to agree what exchange rate we're going to use now, even though the transaction will happen in the future. We call this forwards. Futures are like forwards, except that rather than being customized by the buyer and seller of currency, futures are standardized. And furthermore, they can be traded at the exchange rates. Exchanges. Who are the parties to a future and a forward contract? Who are the parties to the futures and forwards? The parties to the futures and forward contracts are as follows. We have the long party who is buying the underlying asset. In the context of our discussion, the underlying asset will be the foreign currency. The long party is the buyer of the underlying asset. The short party is the seller of the underlying asset. They are the parties to the contract. The long party is the buyer of the underlying asset. The short party is the seller of the underlying asset. Long, buyer. Short, seller. SS, ha? SS. Short party is the seller of the underlying asset. Long, buyer. Short, seller. Who we are we the long or the short party, depends on what our relationship is with the underlying asset. In our situation, the underlying asset is the foreign exchange, is the foreign currency. Okay? Why did futures and forwards started in the first place? Why do they exist? Why do futures and forwards exist? Why do they exist? This happened when, number one, there was a farmer and there was a miller. Okay? It didn't started out for exchange It didn't started out for foreign currencies. It started out for agricultural products. We have the farmer of the wheat or any grain for that matter, and the miller. The miller, ano ito sa Tagalog? Nagtatasa, no? Miller. So, farmer and miller. The farmer would sell wheat to the miller, and of course, the miller will buy the wheat. The farmer is the seller of the wheat. The miller is the buyer of the wheat. What is the problem faced by the farmer? The farmer is very much concerned. What if, by the time the harvest season will come, the prices of the wheat in a future date will go up? Okay? The farmer will be very happy, but the miller will not be very happy about that. Again, in a future date, by the time there would be harvest, the price of the wheat will go up. It will benefit the farmer, but it will be at a disadvantage for the miller. The miller will have to pay a higher price. The miller is now worried. Nag-aalala ang miller, ay, baka at harvest season, tataas yung presyo ng wheat. Paano na yan? Mapapamahal yung bibilhin ko. Now, on the opposite end, what if the prices will go down? The farmer will be at a disadvantage. What if by the time in the future date, at harvest season, the prices will go down? The farmer will have to sell the wheat at a lower price. The farmer will have to sell the wheat at a lower price. So, there are two possible scenarios, and it will be at a disadvantage for one of them. Again, if prices will go up, the miller will be at a disadvantage. If the price of wheat in the future will suddenly go up by harvest season, the miller will be harmed. On the other end, if the prices will go down, the farmer will become poor because the farmer will have to sell it at a lower price. We do not want them to be worried about the ups and downs of the price of the wheat. So that they will not be worried, the farmer and the miller can agree the price in advance. The farmer and the miller, they can agree the price in advance. So that whether the price of the wheat will go up or will go down, it doesn't matter to them anymore because they already set the price of the wheat in advance. Hence, this is when the forwards were born. Okay? This is when forwards were born. There is a situation of a natural hedge. What is a natural hedge? Okay? A natural hedge is a situation where when the transaction will be taken place, you can actually have a situation where both the buyer and the seller will minimize their overall risk. Okay? Both counterparties, in this case, the seller of the wheat and the buyer of the wheat, can minimize their risk position. Okay? But they would also minimize their possibility of a benefit. Okay? So this is when forwards were born. It is possible that they can forego their benefit in order to minimize their risk. If prices would go up, the farmer will be very happy, but the miller will be very sad. If prices will go down, the farmer will be very sad and the miller will be very happy. They can minimize their happiness. They would remove the possibility of being super happy by making a safe position where they will not be very sad. They would agree on the price in advance so that when the prices will go up, the miller will not be hurt. When the prices will go down, the farmer will not be hurt so much. They agree the price in advance. We call this natural hedges. We can minimize the overall risk for both counterparties. Now, there is time in history where the forwards can now be sold and bought. Because they are now being sold and bought, we call them futures. Hindi na sila forwards. Okay? Futures are like forwards, except that there is an exchange there's an exchange who would deal with buying and selling of those contracts. So it is possible that not only the farmer and the miller will be involved, but other speculators. No? Other speculators. Other speculators will enter into the picture. So there are people who believe that the price of the wheat will go up. So ang gagawin nila, they would enter into a long position. Bibilhin na nila. There are those that who will believe that it will go down. They will enter into a short position. So there was a point in history where other people who are no longer farmers and millers enter into the picture. And that is how Wall Street, that's how Wall Street has entered into the futures market. Okay? Gusto ko lang ensure, no? Gusto ko lang ensure na naiintindihan niyo pa ako. To make sure that you are still with me, let us answer this question together. An American importer of English clothing has contracted to pay an amount fixed in British pounds 3 months from now. If the importer worries that the US dollar may depreciate sharply against the British pound in the interim, in that period, it would be well advised to blank. Go. What is the answer? I will give you 1 minute. Okay, ready now? Together, enter. Enter now. An American importer of English clothing, buyer of English clothing, has contracted to pay an amount fixed in British pounds 3 months from now. This American would need to pay an amount in what currency? In British pounds. If the importer worries that the US dollar may depreciate sharply against the British pound. So by the time that the payment will be made, the US dollar may be valued less. So when it is exchanged to the British pound, ang mas bababa na, no? The amount to be exchanged, it will be in less British pounds, no? You would need more dollars to buy the same amount of British pounds rather. So it would be well advised to, very good, the correct answer is letter A. Habang hindi pa kailangan yung British pounds, hindi pa natin kailangan bilhin yung British pounds, what we need to do is to buy pounds only in the forward exchange market. By doing so, the pounds are already fixed in value. The correct answer is letter A. Very good. All of those who answered were able to get it correctly. Now, the best answer is letter A. Here is my follow-up question to you. If the answer letter A is not among the choices, what would be the best answer? Again, I repeat, you are already correct. The best answer is letter A. What if letter A is not in the picture? Okay, what's the best answer? I'll give you 30 seconds to think. Enter. If letter A is not given, what is the best answer? Okay, very good. If letter A is not given, letter B would be the best answer. Why? When you are going to buy pounds, you're going to sell dollars. Tama ba? Buying pounds would mean you have to sell dollars. A and B are both correct, but letter A is the best answer. A is the best answer. B is not the best answer, but B is also technically correct. We have to sell dollars in the forward exchange market in order to buy pounds. Buying pounds means you have to sell dollars. The only problem with letter B is that it's not clear that you're going to exchange dollars for what. If you read letter B, okay, it's not clear what are you exchanging the dollars with. Bumibili ka ba ng yen? Bumibili ka ba ng pesos? Ng euro? Hindi malinaw. A and B technically are both correct, but letter A is clearer. I hope malinaw sa inyo, no? A is the best answer. B is technically correct, but it is not clear whether the dollars are exchanged for pounds, euro, pesos, yen, etc. Okay? Next question. A US company has an account receivable from a Swiss company for 100,000 Swiss francs due in 3 months. At the time of contract, the exchange rate was 1 Swiss franc is to 1 US dollar. The US company wishes to manage its foreign exchange exposure, and therefore, what should it do? Go. Enter. Enter now. Enter. Okay, dalawa pa lang sumasagot, no? Enter. Enter now. Okay, boy, dog, boy, boy, boy. Mas maraming boy. Okay? So very good. The correct answer is letter boy. Linawin natin ha. US company account receivable. What's an account receivable? Hindi receivable, no? Receivable. It will be received in the future. So what will the US company receive? The US company will receive an amount of 100,000 CHF or Swiss francs 3 months from now. At the time of the contract, the exchange rate was 1 Swiss franc is equal to 1 US dollar. The US company wishes to manage its foreign exchange rate exposure. And therefore, what should it do? Therefore, what should it do? Okay, ang kailangan niyang gawin is imagine nyo ha, the amount will be collectible 3 months from now, but the American company, the US company, doesn't have the amount yet. So ang pwede niyang gawin, ibenta niya na yung Swiss franc for US dollars, okay, 3 months from now. Hindi pa niya pwedeng ibenta ngayon dahil wala pa yung amount sa kanya. The amount is not yet with the US company. So the best that the US company can do is to sell the Swiss franc futures. Okay? Nakuha nyo? So, ibebenta niya sa future, kaso wala pa yung amount ngayon. I-fix niya na yung price sa ngayon. Forwards and futures basically act very similarly. Okay? Marami naman sumagot ng boy. Very good. Okay? Makakatanggap ka ng 100,000 Swiss francs 3 months from now. Gumagamit ka ng US dollar. You are using the US dollar, you're going to receive 100,000 Swiss francs in the future. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What you can do is to, okay, rather than sell them now, sell them in the future. Agree already in a price. Okay, agree already in a price to be set in the future. Okay ba? So, hindi mo pa nakuha, ibebenta mo na yung Swiss franc, pero futures. Rather than spot, futures. Letter boy. Next. A company has a foreign currency denominated trade payable due in 60 days in order to eliminate the foreign currency exchange rate risk associated with the payable. The company could, okay, A, B, C, or D, go. Enter now. Enter now. Okay, payable, no? So, in 60 days, the company will have to pay an amount in foreign currency. Foreign currency denominated payable. To eliminate the risk, so what could happen is we would buy the foreign currency forward today. Very good, no? Mukhang nagets nyo na. I think you already got it. Okay? I think you already got it. Let's try calculations. Let us try calculations. Palermo Corporation sold equipment to a French firm. Palermo will be paid 4,275,000 euros in 90 days. We assume Palermo is American. The bank has given the firm a 90-day forward quote of 1.5487 dollars per euro to purchase euros forward and $1.5922 per euro to sell euros forward. Palermo decided to wait 90 days to sell the euros when the spot rate was $1.5645 per euro. How much additional dollar revenue did Palermo gain or lose by waiting to sell the euros on the spot market instead of selling forward the euros? Go. Enter. Enter now. Okay. So, sige. Yung iba dyan. Enter. Yung sagot nyo. Wala na? Oh, sige. So, the question is, how much additional dollar revenue did Palermo gain or lose by waiting to sell the euros on the spot market instead of selling forward the euros? Now, because Palermo sold on the spot, yun yung ginawa niya, no? By waiting to sell the euros on the spot market, hindi siya bumili ng forward. Hindi siya bumili ng forward. So, hinintay niyang mangyari yung 90 days. Lapsing the 90 days, the spot is already 1.5645. The dollar equivalent of that would be 4.275 million euros times 1.5645. That's $6.688238 million dollars. $6,688,238 sold on the spot. But if it is on the forward, 4.275 million, multiply this by 1.5922. Kung ginawa sana ay pumasok sa forward contract, maibebenta sana ng 6.806 million. 6.806655 million. So, yun yung ginawa niya, no? Mas konti yung natanggap niya. Palermo received less in dollar equivalent than what it could have been by 118,417. So there's a $118,417 loss. Okay? One more question. After this one more question, I'm going to direct you to the videos that you have to watch. Okay, videos muna after nito, ha? Carrington Industries, I will give you 3 minutes. Go. Enter now. Enter now. Okay. Carrington Industries sold equipment to Mexican firm. Carrington, again, is American here. Carrington will be paid 41,275,000 Mexican pesos in 30 days. The bank has given the firm a 30-day forward quote, this quote, to purchase the Mexican pesos forward and 0.09322 dollars per peso to sell the Mexican pesos forward. So we have to sell this rather than buy. Carrington decided to wait 30 days to sell the pesos when the spot rate was 0.095 and $6 per peso. How much additional dollar revenue did Carrington gain or lose by waiting? Okay. So ginawa ni Carrington, sold on the spot. That's 0.09596 dollar per peso to sell to sell the pesos, to sell the Mexican pesos. So the dollar equivalent is 3.960749. But if only Carrington was able to use a forward contract, mabebenta niya sana ng 0.09739. Ano? Benta, no? To sell 0.09322. By selling forward, mangyayari dyan, mas konti yung makukuha niya. So, ganun talaga, no? Minsan, kung advance mong i-agree, lugi ka. Okay? So, mabuti na lang hindi niya ginamit yung forward, nakinabang pa siya. Yung maganda lang, pag forward, wala ka nang iisipin. Hindi ka na matakot na malugi. 'Di ba? Pag naka-forward. However, you can actually gain if you are not going to use a forward. That's possible. You would have gained 113,093. So the correct answer is letter A. Very good. Okay? Next time na tong Tamcon Industries. Sa ngayon, panoorin nyo muna yung mga videos. So, you are going to watch the following videos. 1, 2, 3. Introduction to forwards, distinguishing futures from forwards, and introduction to futures. Then I will continue the discussion next meeting. Do you have any questions? Okay. Okay. Type ko Andyan. In the chat box, I have stated the 3 videos that you would have to watch. Introduction to forwards, distinguishing futures from forwards, and introduction to futures. Do it now habang meron pa tayong time, no? Panoorin nyo na for the next 30 minutes. We still have a little more than 30 minutes. So I think that would be enough to consume the time. Okay? So thank you for listening. If you have no more questions, di okay na tayo. See you next meeting.